right? I mean, we're networkers at heart. And I think anytime we can bring all the voices together and our experiences, we just are stronger.
Jennifer Wright is a seasoned direct sales and business development professional with a strong background in MLM, party plan, and omni-channel business structures. She has a great deal of experience developing markets while managing various aspects of a U.S. business from a compliance point of view. One of her skills is in helping companies gain market share by generating increased brand awareness. In the heavily competitive U.S. market, she provides essential insights. Join me now as I spend some time with the amazing Jennifer Wright. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me. This is just such a pleasure to talk to you. Ever since we had our initial contact, I've been really excited about today, and I'm really excited to chat with you about the industry and get your insights. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. I am too. I'm a little nervous as well, right? I think we always get a little nervous before we have to speak about something that we're so passionate about.
Well, just when I last chatted with you, your passion was absolutely evident. So just let it run wild. Everybody's going to be excited to hear from you today, and so it's going to be great. So nothing to be nervous about, and I'm here to hold your hand through the whole process. What do you say?
Sounds good. Let's do this.
Excellent. So I want to start off first of all, before we do anything. You've got a company that does. What does your company do?
So the company that I'm actually kind of exiting right now is in the beauty space and direct sales. We are leaving the market, so we're kind of in that interesting space. I also do consulting on the side in the industry. So where I'm kind of focusing, and it was fun when we connected, Richard, because the industry is changing. It's changing pretty quickly, really, and I think we're all kind of standing around going, how do we move forward in the 21st century, but not only the next 20 years, but the next 5 years. And so I sit in that great space where I'm also going, who else can I help with the lessons I've learned and the things that I see in this industry?
And now your consulting industry, people are going to want to use you. They're going to want to use your services. So what I need is your email, your contact numbers, whatever you want to give out. Obviously, don't give out anything you don't want to give out, but whatever you want to give out so people can connect with you. So let's start with that.
Wonderful. So my email, so hold on, it's pretty long. Don't you love how emails are so long these days? It's really easy, though. It's Wright Jennifer 360 at Comcast.net. And you can easily email me there. Now, I will also give out my cell phone, which is, and I'm in the United States, based in the United States, which is 360-508-3372. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and that's how we got connected. I'm very easily found on LinkedIn as well.
Well, that's awesome. And the reason I give out this detail in the beginning is because some people don't get to the end of the podcast. And if they don't get there, I don't want them to have missed the way to contact you. But we will also put this in the footers on YouTube. Beautiful. You'll be able to see it in the notes, and people will be able to go down there and just click on it and connect with you. And and that would be, that's kind of a key part of what we're doing here today, is trying to help you reach out to people who are looking for support and help in the industry. Definitely. So I'd like to hear your story, your journey. How did you get here?
Journey. Oh,
yes,
wow.
Your journey.
It's an interesting journey because I really fell into direct selling. I mean, I think like most folks in the U.S. had been exposed. I had held parties. I think I had done the Pampered Chef, Party Light, got all my friends around the table to get to my sales to earn the thing that I wanted. And then in 2007, I had the privilege of stepping in the industry with my first company, which was Univera. And they were an MLM nutritional, right? So I just jumped into the deep end and started as really a training manager. And almost 17 years later, here I am, having worked with several large companies in actually 3 different distinct spaces, multi-level marketing, nutritionals, which is a fun space and a difficult space at times. Also, the party plan with both consumer goods, jewelry, and beauty, and an omni-channel of all things. Richard, this is what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years is a direct sales in an omni-channel space, which is something I'm seeing really come on to the scene for companies, which I can understand in the United States, North America in particular. I was blessed, I'll use the word blessed, to have been connected with in my journey those that knew more than I did, those that had much more broad of experience and expertise, and they did take me under their wing, which was great to see the journey, their journey, and also to listen to their experiences as the industry has shifted. Throughout my time in this industry, I have been field development. I didn't go to commissions. I didn't go to operations. I've always been in field development and all of those pieces that encompass field development, which is events, which is recognition, which is sales, it's coaching, it's leadership development. And don't want to leave. I think I'm addicted. I've thought a couple of times I should take this show to a different industry and have always decided no. And I think it's the passion I have for what this provides and the people that I have met. Like you, if it weren't for this industry, I wouldn't have met some of the most amazing people, both as distributors, consultants, and also on the corporate side. So as I've gone through this journey, I also made a decision probably about 10 years ago that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this right. And in that sense, to be the best I could be, which is also evolving, but sitting back and taking a look at this industry and what's not working anymore, what might work. And I think when we talked last week, it was, I think we need to start getting creative in this industry again. I think we need to start getting excited and finding ways to attract people to our company, our product, and our opportunity.
Especially in the first world. You know, in the third world, we still have, you know, it's where America was 20, 30 years ago. But in the first world, it's becoming very sophisticated.
Very much so. And I think that that's good. And it's also causes some issues and challenges because we overthink things. Look, I'm great at overthinking anything. As we were preparing for this, I had all my talking points. I wrote it down. I rethought it. And really what it comes down to is bringing things back to where it's simple, easy, and I can jump right in and do the thing that I need to do. Because we're all really busy. You said first world. Yes, we're really, really busy.
So it's about knowing what to do and then doing what you know.
Doing what you know, and then putting those into action to get the result that we want, which for most people, what is that? Income.
Absolutely. Well, you know, it seems to me, and I'd like to get into this down the road in this conversation, but it seems to me that people do this for all sorts of reasons. You know, I've met people who just do it because they want to be part of the social scene. I've met people who, even if they're not earning money, are doing it to do the incentives because they want to go and travel to Hawaii or whatever, and they've got no other way of getting there. So, you know, I've met people who've been motivated in all sorts of directions, but of course, commissions is a huge one. And one of the things that you were talking about when we last chatted was about keeping the commission simple, making sure people understand their first steps and all of that. Do you want to just dig into that a bit?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit of a comp plan junkie. I have to thank my first director for that in letting me understand that for a good majority of people that will join your opportunity, most likely there's a social connection. Right? First of all, it's a relationship. You might be doing this, and I see you suddenly going off and taking your family on a great vacation that's all paid for, or maybe you're able to pay down a mortgage, get a new used car or a new car. And I've asked what's going on, and I might already know what's going on. And so when you look at your compensation plan from a field perspective, so I'm going to give you a perspective from the outside, because I think that's sometimes where we lose at corporate. We look so much, you know, where's the breakage? How much is it paying out? When we need to look at it from the outside. So if you were to look at the United States, and I'm going to specifically talk about North America, though I think it is global, we're in this really interesting economic period. They keep throwing out the word recession. Hasn't
Mm.
quite happened, but we've had horrible inflation. And when you look at those types of economic elements, where does direct sales thrive? Typically in those elements, because my ends aren't meeting anymore, right? My husband could be
Yes.
working, I could be working, I could be a single mom, and that paycheck, especially with inflation, is not stretching. I need
Mm.
something to fill that gap. You'll hear it called, we call it a lot of fun things here in the US, side gig, side hustle. What it really is just another stream of income. So, for a compensation plan, when you're looking at it from an outside perspective, is it easy to understand? Look, I love to dig in and what did the generations pay and all of that, but this is what I do every day. If I'm Jennifer and I'm a school teacher and I also have a couple of kids, or maybe I don't, and I might be volunteering in my community, I'm incredibly busy. Just my full time job will keep me incredibly busy. So if you lay down a compensation plan, and some of us have seen it, we lay out the 10-page compensation plan. I'll go a little rummy, my eyes will cross. You'll lose me, right? It's that, and I'll say this and you'll probably get it. It's like reading stereo instructions. If it takes too many steps, I'm probably out. But if
Yeah,
you can give me something, huh?
they say confused people say no.
Confused people say no. Confused people will also get paralyzed. So even if I
Yes,
joined, I buy your starter kit and it seems overly complicated, I won't do anything with it. Right? If I have
absolutely.
to take a lot of time to learn your compensation plan or how to get started, I'm not going to get started. So the goal is to really keep it. I go easy, simple, fun. You can make things easy, simple, and fun, and focusing on those initial pieces of the journey and the comp plan. For most people that come in on your comp plan, what are they going to do? They're going to turn around and share or sell with their warmest network. And in that sense, they should be able to do that with a return. And that
Yes.
return being a lot of times we look at cash income, it could be branded merchandise, a lot of times it's product. But I
Yeah.
would say if we can get as much money in people's hands, then the most likely they're going to stay and the longer they're going to stay and the happier they are. Because look, though money isn't the key to happiness, it pays my bills, it keeps me warm, which keeps me happy. Right?
And isn't it a case that as soon as the person is earned, even if it's just $10, their belief
Yes.
gets locked in? It
Yes,
changes
there is
how
a
they view the
concept.
industry.
Oh, there you are. There's a concept which is the effort I put into my business should give me a return. We call it return on investment, right? But if I'm going to spend 5 hours a week on this opportunity I've just jumped into, I should, and if I'm following it, have some idea to get a return. What is that return? Right. And so looking at your compensation plan, how quickly can you get people into the activity that then gives them the return? And then that's where things really need to be broken down simple. I tend to, because I'm this way, because again, we talked about I can complicate things, is the 1, 2, 3 steps. What are the first 3 steps I need to take? I've ordered the getting started kit. What are the first 3 things I need to do? Boom, I've done that. I feel good about that. I've accomplished whatever those 3 steps are. Let's move to the next 3 steps. You kind of add things at a time. Not because people can't follow it, it's because they're busy. They're
Yes, I
busy and they
understand.
don't want to add complicated to a life that's already probably complicated.
I'm with you 100%. And of course, once a person is earning a little bit of money on it, they believe that if you can earn $10, you can earn 50. And if you can earn 50, you can earn 100. And if you can earn 100, you can earn 1,000. And so it actually grows. Your confidence grows as you start earning a
Yes.
little bit of money in the business. And even if you're not doing it for the money, it gives you that belief. It locks in that belief. And when you can say to somebody else, I've got this check. This is what I did. I sold to these 10 customers. I earned this much money. It
Yeah.
becomes so much easier to bring people into the business.
You said it, belief. right? Initially, in the conversations before I've joined, I'm most likely talking to somebody like you, somebody we have a relationship, someone I have some level of trust. I'm also watching what you're doing. I then make the decision to join this, and I might be in my head going, I'm just going to try this for 1 month or 90 days. Maybe I'm just going to keep the products. And those are already going in their mind. And I think that there's two pieces in my world when we talk about recruiting and then in the comp plan. One is the person that they're joining is assuring them they can show them how to do it. Assurance is a big thing.
Mm.
And that assurance comes from those easy steps. I'm here to help you. We're going to do this together. Yeah. And then the second's belief. Belief is a really strong underpinning to everything in direct sales. You have to believe in yourself if you're even going to talk to somebody. Like this conversation, Richard, I have belief. I know this industry. I love this industry. If I didn't have the belief that I could easily communicate it, I wouldn't be here. I most likely would be doing something else.
Yeah.
And so that income builds the relationship with both the company and the individual, but it also builds their belief that they told me to do these steps and it gave me this outcome. Pretty powerful stuff.
And of course, that is from a company's point of view, but it's also from the recruiter's point of view. Now, the question I have is, how do you get the recruiters to commit to helping their people do those 3 steps? Because I see so many people who bring people into the business and then don't do the necessary things. And then they wash that person out. They burn that person. And the person then has got a horror story about our industry and is walking around telling everybody about how terrible our industry is.
That is a beautiful question, because I think it's something that is a challenge in whatever aspect of direct selling. And I kind of come from the standpoint that is a company responsibility. It is 50-50, right? So it's both the leader and it's the company. So a company has to have the resources, support, and tools in place so that that leader has what they need to move forward. That's step 1. Step 2 is also making sure that corporate has a system that support, whether you call them field development managers, whether you call them sales managers, that are able to coach. Coaching is a big piece of this industry. So if you and I were coaching, I might ask you, right, questions about your leadership style. If someone were to ask your team, what do they need from you? Because one of the beautiful things about direct selling is it's not only the ability to make money, it's the ability to develop your leadership and develop you as a person. And that's where you see when folks start to drop folks is they're in it for the wrong reasons. And a lot of times that coaching can help adjust that. It's continuing to look at your field as a resource. And how do you develop that resource, make that resource stronger? I think the other piece is also holding people accountable. Both field holding corporate accountable and corporate holding field accountable. I've seen so many times where we tend to from corporate, and I can understand, well, they're independent. They need to work that out. Where I tend to sit back and go, that's true, there's an element of truth, but we also have an obligation because they've joined us as a company. They've decided to be our brand partner. Where can we step in and maybe help that conversation? Where can we help so that we don't get that bad reputation and those bad feelings, which then just hurt us overall as an industry?
Have you ever seen those TV shows where the management goes back to the floor and goes into their companies incognito, yes, and then does the job to see what's going on in their company? It is my opinion that the top management of every single MLM company should go and spend 2 to 3 months in the field trying to build a team, because if they were to do that, they would have a whole lot more respect and a whole lot more time and a whole lot more empathy and a whole lot more understanding for what the field is doing. Because these are the people that are laying the goose that laying the golden eggs. And very often the management sits in their little ivory tower and they look down at the field and they They should be this and they should be that, and they're independent, and why aren't they doing this? And and they try and manage them as if they were managing a staff, but they're not. They're
Yes.
managing an army of volunteers, and you can't manage an army of volunteers without actually understanding what they're going through on the ground level. So I've often said that these guys who are in their ivory towers should come out of their ivory towers and actually go into the field and see what it's actually like as a completely anonymous person doing this business.
I so agree. The best experiences I've ever had in this industry is sitting in a living room in our yoga gear at 11 o'clock midnight talking about not only their world with leaders, but listening to the stories and where they failed, where it's worked, and what this company means to them. That is where that magic really happens. And it is also to be with them. I've sat there when they've had to pitch, and then it allows us to get in the car and go, okay, all right, you need to adjust here and you need to adjust here because you're coming in hot. You're coming in hot because you become their business partner. And I've always, as I've done this job for so long, I will always tell the new person who's been here and they're at the top of the food chain, right? They're the top leader. I'm your business partner. So I will always look at what you're doing, give you suggestions. You don't have to do what I tell you to do. I will give you suggestions and I will give you that outside perspective so that you can be better. And that to me is a very important piece. But you're right, getting back grounded with the people that every day sit and talk about your product, they sell your product, they go through fear and doubt and rejection, and it makes them stronger, it makes them better. But to be there to witness that and to hear it, I think helps those leadership at corporate understand so they don't disconnect. It's easy to disconnect, especially in compensation plan. We're going to make a change. Well, why are we making the change? Well, because our field shrunk, we need more money. That's a lot of reason why compensation. Well, how about maybe we bulk up the comp plan so our field grows, they're making more money and they want to bring more of the people they know into this opportunity.
And the thing, we have a rule. You never change the compensation plan ever. And that's the first rule. And the second rule is if you need to change the compensation plan, you need to refer to rule 1, which is never change the compensation plan ever, because I've very seldom in my life seen a company give the field more money. The only thing I've ever seen is them taking money away from the field. And what happens is they don't complain, they don't shout, they don't scream, they just leave.
They just go away and they quietly go away. And then suddenly you're like, our active field is down by 50%. You have your core compensation plan, whatever your structure is. Of course, I have thoughts about structures. And then there are things you can always add to it. And it could be a yearly, right? Here's our yearly plan to bulk it up. Because why? That's a great method, because then if we do it for a year and it really worked, maybe we do roll it into the compensation plan. But you're right. Rarely in a compensation plan update is it, oh, we're going to give you more. It is more,
Exactly.
well, we're adjusting this and because our costs are higher, and they do, and they go away. And what happens is they go away to your competitor. They go away to somebody else. And most likely they go away to a new player, right? Because a new player has just launched their compensation plan and they're out there probably the loudest about it.
Yeah. Exactly. So you were just saying now you have some ideas about structure. I want to hear. You piqued my interest.
I've worked in several structures, and you've got the binary structure, which to me that's that's an older version, right? That is the 20th century. I think a lot of the new hybrid compensation plans you're finding are you can build as wide front line as possible, which I love that one. And the reason why I love that one is if I'm recruiting and I'm bringing you in, I want you as close to me as possible so I can help you on this journey, right? And also in a compensation plan, if you can help those people, you probably earn more. If I can bring all my leaders front line and help them build teams down. Another thing with hybrid that you're starting to see is these affiliate marketing, right? The brand ambassadors, where you can have folks come in that all they want to do is share. They just want to share. whether you have a code that's got a discount, but you've got that volume. And
Yeah.
now that's a tricky one in compensation plans, but why don't you add that into the organization? So all that volume is flowing up. That leader has that direct connection. The other is making sure that your field can always see the clarity of their organization, the volume, and where people are structured. So I tend to like structures that allow you to build as wide as possible, so then you get that depth. Which most likely, if you're in that structure, you're probably paying on levels. So the wider you go and the deeper you go, then you have a more robust compensation plan.
Yes, I actually tend to like those kind of compensation plans as well. Another thing that, and you mentioned this last time we chatted, is the fact that you need to be able to go and make money from day one. And so
Yes.
that means that you have got a retail commission of some sort, so that
Yes.
if I sell directly to an end user, I'm making money, and then probably some kind of volume bonus, so that if I sell a little, okay, I make a little bit of money, but if I
Yeah.
sell a whole pile personally, then my volume generates additional commissions. Do you use those kind of
I love
commissions? And
that. I do, because I think one of the things is you should have a good base compensation with this ability to sell more, earn more, because they directly control that, right? When you start to get into team building and you start recruiting and building the team, your volume then's based on whatever Jane's going to do next week, right? But if
yes,
I have a direct retail commission, I can directly affect that. So if I've got a month, like the December is one of those crazy months, you'll sell, sell, sell. Once you hit the middle of the month, things die off. Well, a lot of times you'll see teams go really quiet because you're heading into the holidays. With that retail commission element, I have control over. I could personally go out and sell and still
and
keep
push.
my commissions up. And I love that piece because that's something they can directly affect.
So I saw a nice commission compensation element the other day, which I thought, wow, this is absolutely amazing. What it was is that, let's say I recruit you,
Okay.
and you go out and you do, I don't know, $10,000 or $1,000 worth of sales, and you earn a volume bonus of, let's say, $500. So you would have earned just $500, but because you did high volume, you earn an additional $500. Now, I would earn a matching bonus on your
Mm-hmm.
volume, not on your
Mm-hmm.
retail, but on the volume you increase. So that means
Yes.
I'm very, very motivated to do sales myself because I want to increase my volume, but I'm also motivated to help you do volume sales because I get a matching volume on yours. So if you do $1 extra, I get $1. You do $100, I get $100. You do $500 in volume bonus, I would get $500 in volume bonus. So that's kind of quite a focus on the
Uh-huh.
retail side of things.
It is. And matching bonuses have been around a while. I love matching bonuses, especially now. Typically, I will always go to the direct, right? So if
Yes.
here's the person doing the thing, that's as high as it goes.
Yes.
The reason why I like that is it can help solidify that relationship. Yes, you are monetizing it, but it gets them into the game. You know, the reality is to have some of these behaviors, we do have to reward it. We do have to monetize it. They've never done it before. So it allows that relationship because, yes, I am going to get the bonus, but I'm going to help you get it too. And then I'm going to help you with the person you bring in because it all goes up
Yeah,
the food chain. But yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I
So
like
that
matching
for
bonuses.
so yeah, so I love that whole concept of the person can go out and by the sweat of their brow, they can generate the kind of income that they need. And if they are short of money, they can just go and work harder. They're not dependent on thousands of people and you recruit five, who recruit five, and all of those kind of good things that the MLMers team
Yeah.
to go. It's a much easier thing if I am dependent on my own activity to go out and generate cash.
Yes.
So yeah,
It's
I'm in a
simplicity,
hundred.
right?
Exactly.
Because what are the two behaviors really truly? What are the two behaviors we want folks to do? We want them to sell, promote the product, market the product, sell. And then we want them to sell and market the opportunity. So the build. You know, those are the two basic behaviors in this industry. And if you can look at how you compensate that from the beginning, in a way that's pretty profound, that solidifies that relationship and they feel really good about it and they're having fun, right? And then kind of leads me to the other is this idea of the tools surrounding that first initial journey, right? Because remember, we talked about people are really, really busy. They're busy. I don't have time to pick up the manual and read this to get going. Do you have fun roadmaps? I call them roadmaps. They're really high level. They're really easy to follow. It's that concept of 1, 2, 3. It does take effort. I think that's the other piece when you look at, especially in the United States and sort of our compliance, you've got to always say, this is always based on your effort, but what we should show them what that effort looks like, right? Here's a roadmap. If you do these things, here's a possible outcome, right? You do more of these activities, you get a higher outcome. Keeping those things very simple. Another one, Richard, and I digress a little bit. Something we do in compensation and training that drives me a little bit nutty is the language we use, right? So if I've never been exposed to this, or I've just held parties in my house, I have no idea what an override is. I have no idea what a rebate is, or a generation, or I love this one, breakaway. Breakaway. Yeah. What's a breakaway? Let's roll it back. The language we use now compliance have to have certain language, totally understand. You have a regulatory environment. But when it comes to your promotional elements and how we teach the field to talk about it, you start throwing in terms and ideas that most people don't know. The rank names even. I come from MLM, and you get a lot of diamond, emerald, ruby. What does that mean? In a world where I have managers, directors, right, VPs, I'm a diamond. Those can be interesting concepts, and it can also be in your language can either pull people close or can push them away. And so I've seen a migration in the last few years, which has been nice to see a migration, especially with newer companies coming on the scene, in the language and how they talk about their opportunity and how they talk about the compensation plan. But you still have a lot of stuff out there. Especially, I have to laugh. You rolled your eyes when you said breakaway. Cannot stand that term because it sounds bad. It sounds like breakaway. Where's it going? Like it's a Kelly Clarkson song, Breakaway, right? Like, where does the breakaway go? It has a negative connotation, even though Agreed. For most comp plans, it doesn't necessarily go away. It's just paid differently. But looking at, especially in those first few ranks of the journey, keeping that as approachable, keeping it very average language. Could a high school graduate understand what you just said? And then as they start to grow, start to add in those terms that are a little bit more business, like return on investment. Those types of terms that maybe you have to start to bring in. Again, it's a journey. And looking at your compensation plan as the journey of your leader. They came in brand new. We hope that we can take them all the way to the end, but as we know, only so many % get to those top ranks. Most of your folks sit in those first, probably 1 to 4, those lower end ranks, and that's where they sit for the majority of their career. So how do you make the language around what you're presenting approachable, easy to understand, simple to tell to somebody else, and above all, fun? Because you mentioned this community. If they're joining your opportunity, it should be fun. I'm doing this part-time. If we can make it fun, we can make it engaging. We can make it a place where I want to escape, right? Because the world's kind of crazy right now. If I can make that community a place, whether it's a training, whether it's a recognition element, whether it's an in-person event, an online event, we want our field to look at it as like, I really want to be there. Because this is a nice break from what's going on in my living room right now, which could be crazy.
Exactly. And the interesting thing, you mentioned something earlier on, which I just want to touch on. You said that that during COVID, our industry changed. But what I found is that during the period of COVID, our business went ballistic. We 3x'd our business. I mean, it tripled in size during the the pandemic. And it seemed to me that there was a number of reasons for that. Community was one of the big ones. People were so
Yes.
isolated and so cut off that this gave them an opportunity to be part of a community. And the second thing is jobs were going away. So they were looking for ways, a side hustle, as you said earlier on, a
Yeah.
way to actually generate a bit of extra cash. So this has been it was a good landing place for both those types of people.
It is. It was what COVID did is I think those shifts were already happening in the industry. What COVID did is we just fed it. It just went nuts because it was night and day, right? We couldn't go places. Shopping was taking your life in your hands at some points. You didn't want to leave your home to expose yourself. Where I think as we come out of COVID, what's been interesting to watch the industry is what did we do so well during COVID? Community. We were community building. Now it was virtual, so we all got really good at StreamYard, right? We got really good at Facebook. We got really good at those lives and coming live, whether we had our makeup on and our sweats or we were all done up ready to speak. The other was talking to folks about our product and why they needed our product and how don't go to the store. Don't go to the store. There's lots of people. You could do it from the safety of your home as you come in, and then people needed those streams of income, those additional streams of income. As we've coming out of COVID and trying to figure out what this looks like, these hybrid events even,
Yeah.
you've seen the community kind of step back, right? It's like what we did during COVID, we just needed to continue doing. Now we could do it in person. What I was used to doing before COVID, which was getting out on the road, sitting in people's living rooms, maybe even being at a resort, being at a hotel, stadium if you have large enough events, everybody being in that same space together, continuing to build community. But this is what I think needs to happen. This is just my own thoughts is, yes, we're going to move to in-person, but continuing to keep that virtual in place. Don't roll back the Facebook Lives or the Instagram Reels or the TikToks, making sure your corporate is just as accessible and having that fun as much as you are at in-person events. In-person events should have a virtual streaming option. I think that that's going to be what folks are going to expect because you have some people that are still leery about being in big crowds. I can totally understand that. Or traveling
100%.
across the country. You have to keep, I think what we need to do coming out of COVID is keeping both of those elements, virtual, streaming, and in-person, as high on that priority list so that you're serving all those folks in the North American market.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, it is a business of interpersonal connection. And the reality is nothing beats being there in person. If
Yes.
you have been, I'm sure, I've sat in rooms with 12, 13, 20,000 people at these big events. And the energy
Oh,
that's in that room, you cannot reproduce on Zoom. But as you say, there's many, many people who just can't get there. There's many people who, for whatever reason, can
the
join you
many
on Zoom. And
people,
those, yeah,
especially international, international travel, because you still have COVID hotspots. Let's not, mince words about it. And maybe they don't want to travel across the ocean. I could totally understand that. And we should be able to serve our field wherever they happen to be. You mentioned Zoom. I do a lot of Zoom and GoToMeeting. And I think one of the pieces is you have to really up your energy. And I love music. So it's not unusual when I did my trainings or my meetings, I would open the room 5-10 minutes before. I'm not on camera and I just play a great playlist. It's the
that's
energy
actually
we
a great
can.
idea.
Oh, it's so much fun. We would
Yeah.
do also things with the company of just leaving. We would do trivia nights. You could earn, if you got to so much volume, you got an invitation. Of course, we gave away prizes. And we didn't talk business. We just did fun trivia, online scavenger hunts. You have to be creative in order to keep that up. Because I'll tell you, I have a little bit of Zoom fatigue, just like everybody else. But it's all in what you bring to the party.
Well, that's actually an excellent idea. So that's part of the community building side of things that we were just talking about.
Yeah, yeah. or coming on and just having everybody come into a Zoom room to wish everybody a happy holiday. We did one with Thanksgiving. What's everybody thankful about? Again, it's just that coming to folks, building the community, and allowing them to all speak. And by the way, most of the time we were just facilitators. The best meetings we ever had, we just like you're with me. I'd ask a question and sit back and just let them all unmute and chat, and some really great online experiences that, by the way, when you go to an in-person event, oh, I get goosebumps because they've seen you on camera and then you get to meet them in person. It's a pretty amazing feeling.
Yeah, I love that. I must be honest with you. I'm completely crazy about the in-person events, especially those big stadium size events where you go into the place and there's, 20,000 people in the stadium and there's just such a buzz about it. So, for those people who are listening, if you've never done that, it's definitely something I would put on the list of things to do.
Definitely. Yeah. It's a bit addictive, I will tell you.
Yeah, it is, but you walk away from those events so fired up, Yeah. I mean, many, many, many years ago, I was part of a company called Rainbow selling Rainbow vacuum cleaners when I was a kid. And I went to the States. I won a trip to the States to go to one of their big presentations, and I was in the room with 25,000 people. And when I came away from that, I was more fired up than I'd ever thought possible. I mean, they gave me a hot bath. They got my temperature through the roof.
There is. It's the same concept if you were to go to a concert, a rock concert, or a theater production. When you bring people together, especially when we're together with a common cause, it is something that's it's what we as humans, I think, do so well. But on the other side, it is also from a corporate standpoint when they've earned an incentive trip. And every incentive trip I've ever been on, I'm always right there when they're getting out of the taxis and the transfers in our gear to welcome them. And there's been tears because a lot of times they've never traveled. Maybe they've never had a passport. And they get to wherever you're at and they see a welcoming face. Those are the things that set this up. They will work so hard to have that experience. Yes, it's the pool
Agreed.
and all the other things. It's those experiences, which I think kind of bringing us back to this idea of it's all centered around they have to do what? They have to maximize their compensation plan. They have to know and work their compensation plan, have that belief in what they're doing for themselves and their teams in order to be able to open up those other elements and have those experiences.
So, I mean, that brings us very nicely. It's a beautiful segue that because let's talk about incentives because incentives, I think, are a massive part of our industry. So how do you incentivize people? Because a new person, I mean, it's difficult for them to achieve an international travel trip. But the guys who are at the top leadership, you also want to be careful that you're not just automatically sending them on one of these incentive trips. They need to be able to work for it. So how do you go about incentivizing people and how do you incentivize people at different levels and kind of what kind of prizes do you have, etc.? What would you say there?
Incentives can be used to me, it's very strategic. So an incentive is where you will add another layer. All right. So in order to encourage growth at what it could be a rank, it could be part of the journey, it could be a behavior. For example, recruiting. If your recruiting is down, we see the numbers drop, we don't have as many people coming into the business. Is there a temporary incentive that you can add that would increase that amount, right? Which increases the business overall. Or is it a long-term incentive, right? So is it something that's long-term that you're going to build into the compensation plan, or is it short-term like you're matching, right? If I recruit you, you come in and hit a certain level, you get a bonus, I get a bonus. That's an incentive designed to really build a behavior, recruiting and actually mentoring, recruiting and mentoring. So for trips, and trips are great, and I like trips, but trips can be, as I'll say the word sticky, because where do you want the trip to fit? Typically, I've seen 3 levels of trips. A trip that somebody in their first stages can earn, and a lot of times that's like a training, it's like an academy, right? So I got to a really low level leader rank. We're going to fly you into Utah, California, Florida for a weekend. You're going to come in, we're going to wine and dine you, but we're going to train you on how to get to the next level. Then your mid-level trips, right? Your mid-level trips are to encourage those mid-level leaders, because a lot of times they get stagnant. Oh, I've been a gold. I'm good. So your trips at that are really designed to get them at least to the next level, to encourage them to the next level. To earn the trip would mean you probably have to increase sales. You probably have to increase your team. So it means recruiting and mentoring. So those mid-level trips typically will have those elements out of it. And that trip is somewhere for North America. It's probably Mexico. It's Dominican Republic. It's somewhere maybe in Florida. It's somewhat short. We call it a short haul. I'm using a term. Short haul. You can get there in one day. Then you got the big stuff, right? They're the safaris. They're the big Hawaii. We're going to go to Australia. The big ticket trips. Those are typically focused at your top ranks. And they have to do X, Y, Z above and beyond what they're doing to grow to get those trips. Those trips typically are pretty small, right? I don't know that I've seen anything larger than about, 25 people, 50 people, your executives, because it's going to take you a day or two to get there. It's Fiji. Yeah. It's those types of things. If you can strategically put those in there and brand them and people understand what they need to do to get it and what it's designed to do. That's the other thing with incentives, Richard, is a lot of times companies put out incentives and they're not really clear on what it's trying to do. I'm a pretty clear, transparent. We're going to put this matching bonus out because we want to increase your teams and the recruiting, which increases the business as a whole. I think sometimes we don't say what those things are. Incentives can be as simple as, I love these ones too. Let's say $1,500 in sales. Everybody that hits $1,500 gets a branded backpack. Maybe there's things inside of it, products inside of it. You want to find wherever your average sales are. So let's say your average sales for your is like 500. You want to increase that. The idea is to increase sales. We're going to give you an incentive because we know that will increase their individual businesses. And that brings me to that concept of incentives, whether they're things, trips, bonuses, cash. If we can incentivize them, they win, we win. What we talked about at the beginning with that idea that we change the comp plan to take away. Well, what if we were to add layers to it to help them win more, that they want to talk to their network more and add more people? That it's a different concept instead of scaling back. What if you scaled up? Maybe you start with something that doesn't cost a whole lot, but has the appearance of costing quite a bit. It could be one-on-one training. It could be a special invitation to a trivia night. I mean, I will tell you this. I'll digress for a minute. We did these trivia nights once a month. You had to sell $750 to earn your ticket. It was by the middle of the month. Our field would go nuts earning this ticket. Of course, the first one, a little bit low attendance because they didn't know what to expect. So our field team would come on with hats and we had music and we gave away prizes and we did trivia night. And every month we did that, the numbers increased and the numbers increased, the numbers increased. They wanted to be on there. They had that FOMO. They started going out and talking about what we did on this great trivia night. And our sales overall did what? They started to go up, and they started to go up in the middle of the month. It didn't cost us a lot. It cost us mostly time and energy to put a party together. And it built community, and it was very, very engaging. When we pulled them away, they weren't very happy. So you have to look at and ask your field. Like, here's the other thing. Sometimes we sit around the table and we all go, what's going to drive the field? What's going to drive the field? Like, hey, how about you pick up the phone? Call one of your mid-level leaders. Call a low-level leader. What would drive you? What's something that would really make you want to earn this in your team? Well, sometimes we forget. Ask our business partners. What do they want? Well, okay, we can't give you a car every time you sell something, but we could maybe meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I saw, we had a leader in one of the companies I was involved with. And what they would do is they would, every single month, they would take the top two salespeople in their organization out to dinner with their
Yes.
partners. So I mean, it was a simple thing, and it wasn't to a very expensive, flashy restaurant. It was just to a little steakhouse. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, to have gone with the leader to that restaurant and have that dinner was absolutely sought after, and the people would fight tooth and nail
Yes.
to be the person who went on that dinner date. You know, and every month it would
It
be, hey
is.
guys, who's going to get it? And so it's a small thing, but tremendously effective.
It's tremendously effective. And the beautiful thing is, corporate can do it. Your field can do it for their own teams, right? So,
Yeah,
so what can you put out there that they can mimic, that they can take and run with? And again, life should be fun. We should have some fun. We should enjoy this. We should enjoy the people we work with. We should
agreed.
enjoy the effort we put into it. And do we? So I guess the question I struggle with, especially in the last year, is, are we as an industry making it fun and easy to participate with us? I think it's 50-50. Do we have a long way to go? And the more we can change that, then the reputation that kind of follows us will also change as well.
Yeah, because it's now it's not a case of me hitting up on all my friends and family to try and get them to buy something from me. It's now being part of something that's epically fun and enjoyable.
Yeah.
And isn't
Yeah.
that what it's
And
about?
that's what it's about, and we were training the last few years. I've trained, actually the last 5 years, on the recruiting side, is maybe don't talk to your warmest network first. Because the reality is, my cousin's not going to build big in this. She's going to buy because she loves me, right?
Yeah.
So, but using your warm network, who do you know that would like this? Who do they know? I call it mining other people's networks, because I think you've had this experience. The big leaders you're going to have in your team, your next leaders, aren't your warmest network. There's somebody that you met through somebody that you met through somebody that was really wanting to do this. And so, really training folks to look at that is ask the question, who do they know? Who
Yeah,
do they know that would like the product or the opportunity? And introduce them to me. Let's have a great conversation.
exactly. So the next thing that I just want to drop into here is recognition, because
Oh,
I find that to be a very, very powerful driver within our industry. And there's so much that is missed, I think, by corporate by not really following through on recognition.
recognition. People like to hear their own name. And though somebody might tell you, I'm not driven by recognition. Well, the minute that you recognize them with their name and they light up like, right, they glow like the sun. Recognition is, it's just that, it's recognizing greatness. I view it that way. So, what is the greatness that I've experienced today? How do I recognize that? And I'm talking from a corporate. And by the way, this can be also with those field leaders. You need to be
Mm.
looking at your organization. What is the greatness? Greatness, sure, it's always sales and it's recruiting, but maybe greatness is that leader of yours that finally went live and did a live on their Facebook, or maybe they did a training and they've been very shy to do that. It's really calling out the greatness that they did. Um,
Yeah.
you have to always look at the basic elements of recognition. And I think what happens at corporate is we get big budgets, right? We've got all of the plaques and all of the trophies, when sometimes the best recognition is just opening up whenever you're together and recognizing the greatness that's happened. You've got to know your reports. You got a team that can recognize these things. One of the best things we used to do, the jewelry company I was out on the road quite a bit, and I would drop into wherever. Let's just say Jonesboro, Arkansas. I had a great big
Okay.
team there. And I would, in preparation for that, talk to the three leaders that were helping me. What are some great things that have happened on your team that are not business metrics, right? Somebody got married, somebody had a new baby, right? Maybe somebody just graduated from high school, college, whatever, those big things. So give me those other things, because remember, this is community, this is life. Maybe their child just got some great award. What are some other business things? And I would make a note. I'd always do this in prep. And then I would go buy chocolates, something small, right? Or I would bring product with me and they would have no idea, and opened it up. We're going to recognize greatness. We're going to start this with recognizing some great things. We're going to do business and we're going to do community. It takes a little bit of prep and it takes communication. You can even do that on a large scale. I've done that at huge conferences as well. Not so much the personal, because you don't want to start celebrating birthdays at every big conference, but it's having and asking for those stories, right? So that you can recognize that. And you can recognize that sometimes you don't even have to give a gift. But I will say this, when you are recognizing your business, and you should have a grid, I call it a grid. So it starts here and it builds out, right? So meaning, if I hit a mid-level leader rank for the first time, that congratulations needs to come from most likely a mid-level executive. Whether it's a phone call, whether we all get on a Zoom, it needs to be acknowledged by the corporate. You were talking about the ivory tower. They need to start recognizing, and it could be me getting them the notes and going, say these things. This is the name, right? Your team should have your back to say, this is who they are, here's their personalities, go. Yeah. That means so much to those folks, because they're doing this at home in middle Arkansas. They may or may not have been to the corporate offices. There may not be corporate offices, but people are what make that important. But understanding at what level they get what. And sometimes those most important elements are who's recognizing what that new rank is. We did, with the jewelry company I was with, I had added a streamer. This is interesting. And I haven't been able to do it anywhere else. On their website, so when you logged into your back office, there was like a ticker tape at the bottom.
Ah, lovely.
And they were people that had just joined, right? So it would run. So what we do is we'd upload it, like we'd close the week out on Mondays, and those names would run at the ticker tape, all these new people. What a beautiful way to just, you saw your name, went, that was my name. I just came in. That's the important thing with recognition, but also getting your awards right. You got to get your awards right. Like those awards need to reflect the spirit and the mission of the company. If you're a very green, community-based type of an organization, don't get a huge, big behemoth glass trophy that stands out. Looks like you could kill somebody with it. Maybe do something that's maybe more wood-based. It's understanding who you are and how your awards reflect who you are, as they should. It's not always slapping your logo onto it. Yeah. Because then it looks like, okay, you bought this at the trophy store. You might as well put it like a bowler at the top. But I think it's that idea of who are you and what do you want people to, when they look at that in their office, how do they feel about that achievement? And how do they feel about the company they did that with?
And very often recognition can be completely free. I was at an Amway meeting a couple of years ago, and the top leadership was a guy called Jim Dornan was there. And he said, okay, what I'd like to have is everybody who signed up 2 people in the last 90 days, I want you to come down to the front here. I want you to walk across the stage, and everybody else, I want you to give them a big round of applause. Oh, yeah. You've never seen bigger smiles in your whole life than those people walking across the stage. Now, he didn't have to have a list. He didn't have to tick it off. The person said, I signed up 2 people in the last 90 days. They walked across the stage. They got a big round of applause, a huge ovation. And of course, he got to the point where he said, right, I want everybody who's recruited 6 people in the last 90 days to come down. And everybody else, I want you to give them a standing ovation. Now, how many people ever get a standing ovation in their lives? So these people came trotting.
I love it.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I said I love that.
Yeah. So and he didn't have to check on anything. And if somebody got up that only recruited 3 people, well, who cares? They need that recognition. Give it to them. Off they came down. Obviously, most people had done what he said. They walked across the stage. The entire audience, there were over 12,000 people there. The entire audience stood up and gave these guys a standing ovation for the entire duration that it took these people to walk down from their seats,
Yeah.
across the stage and back to their seats. Now,
Yeah.
I've never seen bigger smiles. I've never seen more excited people, and it cost the company nothing. It was
Nothing.
an absolute freebie, you know.
It
So I think
total freebie.
yeah, so I think that very often the companies get caught up in having to give badges and having to give medals
Hmm.
and having to give all of these kind of things, when in actual fact, sometimes it's just what you said, a top level manager giving you a phone call, or your upline leadership giving you a phone call, or
Yeah.
even your downline giving you a
Yeah.
phone call and saying, hey, I just saw that you hit, Jennifer, I just saw you hit gold. I'm so proud of you. It's so great to be part of your network. You know, it doesn't even have to be your upline. It could also be your downline, just recognizing your achievements. And you know, that can be very easily driven through software, because
Yeah.
nothing stops the company sending out an SMS or a communication, an email
Uh-huh.
to the downline of somebody who just got gold and say to them, hey, listen, Jennifer just went to gold. Why don't you give her a call? So suddenly
Yes.
500 people all photo you to say, well done. And again, that recognition is free, isn't it?
It is free. And like you were talking about the SMS and the text messaging, and we have so many ways to communicate today. And it's apps and it's software. Another fun one, and it was a former Amway leader that would do this, and he had a huge organization. It was the first company I was with. Would have somebody stand up. It was a great recognition, and said, who enrolled you, who brought you in, and had that person stand up. Suddenly all you had, everybody in the room. It was that
That's
connection,
amazing.
the
What an excellent
recognition.
idea.
Yeah, and it was so fun to watch them. Okay, so I brought you in. Who here did you bring in? Can you all stand up? And they'd all say, now who did they bring in? And it's that idea that how connected we all are, and it's free. And I think that you're right. Sometimes, especially larger companies, get so caught in their structure, what recognition should be, instead of really, let's put the money where it needs to be, and let's come back to bringing what we bring so well to the table, which is ourselves, and the looking at and acknowledging greatness. What's the greatness in our organization? How do we acknowledge it every day, every week, and every month?
And as you said, it could be something as completely non-business related as having a new baby, or it could be something like signing up people, or doing
Yes,
record sales or whatever, or achieving ranks, because that's a huge one. I mean,
that's a
getting
huge
a
one.
badge that says I'm a silver or a gold or a platinum or a diamond or whatever, those things, people wear those badges with absolute honor, you know.
Oh,
You
they do. And I've seen something too, and I would say anybody that's listening to this, if they're running, is your low ranks, right? That journey, they most likely they're going to stay there for the majority of their career. How do you, when you're at your events, acknowledge, like you said, a rank advancement? Maybe that first rank bump. You might have 1,000 of them, let's say in a year. How do you, like you said, bringing them on stage and allowing them to get that applause is really powerful, because sometimes we focus so much at those other ranks and they get awards and they get this. Is really those first couple of ranks, depending on how large your rank system is. Where do you find ways to really recognize them at your events, online, that know how valuable they are, and what an accomplishment it is to achieve that first rank? That first rank is a big achievement for most folks.
Yeah, absolutely, because that is what keeps them in the game. Because retention is a
Yeah.
huge problem. So again, nice segue here. Let's talk about retention, because one of our biggest challenges in our industry is retaining
Uh-huh.
our people. You know, very often
Yes.
we're just churning people through the business and we're losing them as fast as we're bringing them in.
Retention is a challenge, and I think that it kind of comes back to it's a combination of all the different things we're talking about. I think that retention is looking at your compensation plan, making sure that they can come in, do the activity, and get paid for their efforts. Right? That a lot of times is why people will step away. I think the other reason why a lot of times people step away in those early, elements of their career is us not training their leaders to be good leaders, mentors, and coaches. A person that comes in and joins you is independent. Are you really finding out from them what they want? Not what you want from them, not what you're going to get from them, but really switching the conversation to say, what is it you want from this? How much do we need to get you a month in your pocket? Because we know that those are the things that do keep people in. It's that easy, simple way. I can do these things that get this income, but also teaching those leaders to be more coach, to be more centered on what it is they want, right? What is it their team needs? Because you can have a team of 30 people. I'm going to tell you, you have 30 different reasons for being and 30 different reasons of why they're there. And I think that the other piece too is allowing people to understand this is your journey. What is it that you want? Let's help you get there, right? If you will get there when you get there, and your journey will change. But let's serve you, and I will use the terminology, serving people where they're at, not where we want them to be, unless it's where they want to be. Serving where they want to be and creating that community so that you have the long term, if you've got a strong community and you're serving your folks through the compensation plan and through easy training, another company that might come along, and by the way, I've seen this happen. No, I'm just not interested. I'm happy where I'm at. Do you know how powerful that is? Keeping people happy where they're at, then they won't leave or they won't quietly go away. But that takes the viewpoint from corporate that the journey is 50-50. It's 50-50 on what corporate does, and it's 50-50 in the field. And we're in this together, which means we should be developing each other, steering each other the correct way, having those coaching conversations to say, oh, don't say that. Do you know how a person communicates? Did you ever have that question? You're texting this poor person who doesn't like text message, would rather have a phone call. Those are things that I think corporate, is an obligation. I think that now whether the person takes what they're taught to move forward, obviously that's on them. They're independent. But how much are we really putting in to develop them to be just better people? Because if they're better people, then a lot of your issues resolve.
Yeah, build the people, you build the business.
Right. And removing those things from the business that seem like they're being taken advantage of. Right. So I'll throw this one out. I know it's still a big player in our industry, is the idea that I have to have an auto order of so much product in order to get paid. Well, I kind of look at it and say, if I'm your brand ambassador and I love the product, I'm probably already buying a lot of product.
Yeah.
So you have elements like that are still in play to go, don't force me to buy a certain, whether it's volume or a dollar amount, because if I've joined you and we're doing this right, I'm already buying that volume. Though I have seen where companies have allowed customer volume to count for that, but auto order, I tend to shy away from those and go, I don't like to force an order.
I have a feeling that has now become illegal. You cannot force a person to have to buy a product in order to qualify. I think there's some new laws they're
changing some things, and I love it, because you go, again, if I'm joined and I like the product, I've already buying the product. I'm a product ambassador. I'm probably buying a lot of product.
And if you're not buying product, that also that says a lot about the business. It says a lot about the product, doesn't it?
It does.
So that brings us to product. While we're on the product, how important is a good product?
Oh my gosh.
That is the question.
Product is going to be foundational, right? It is what you're going to build everything around. So, direct sales is supposed to be where you're getting a product that maybe you couldn't buy at Target, at Costco, at Walmart, right? So, but you've seen where that started to shift a lot, and that concept is really removed, and where direct selling has come into this, it's about the nature of the selling experience, the buying experience. experience, right? That you're able to buy from someone you trust, that can walk you through, that can educate you. You know, when you go into a Target and I'm sitting looking, I'll use beauty, I'm looking at a whole row of shampoo. I'm just reading labels, where if I show up at an event or I'm talking to a friend that's selling a shampoo line, she can then give me additional information, he or she, and can walk me through the process. Here's where I think with product, it's going to be interesting to see how this fits out in the North American market, particularly in the US. A lot of times, your MLM party plan direct sales product will be a higher price than what you could get at a store.
Yes.
Direct sales and your party plans, you see a lot more promotional pieces, right? So they'll tend to bring it down, where MLM tends to stay fairly consistent. And I would say, I think you need to find where you price your product correctly to pay out, obviously, in your compensation plan, because you're here to make money. It's a company, everybody should be making money. But where do you price it right so that it is, someone might go, oh, that's about $5 more than what I would get, but it's worth it for me, because that $5 allows me to help somebody build a business, but I actually got that $5 in training, product experience, samples that I didn't get from a typical brick and mortar store. So product is very, very important. Knowing your product, how to position your product, how to talk about your product, knowing your compliance around your product, right? So if they're eating it, if it's nutritionals, you really have to understand where your compliance sits as well. There's a compliance with your beauty areas, but where is your product distinct and different from other products in the mix? What is the one thing, and there's maybe more than one, that positions your product differently?
Uniquely. And the other thing is, of course, you've got the opportunity, once you are sitting with this new distributor, it's unlike any other way of selling in the world, because I sit with you and I explain to you why this product is amazing. And I train you on why this product is amazing. And we experience the product together. So by the time you've finished, you are completely locked into why this product is so amazing. You could never get that kind of advertising anywhere in the world. And if you've done a good job of that training process, even if the person doesn't stay a distributor, they always remain a customer.
Always. If you've done it, and you're right, they joined you as a distributor, and then it just didn't work for them. They found that they really weren't that interested. You do see a lot of times they'll still continue to buy from you. So starting with that, that's why that product piece is so important. It is them having that experience and why we're even having the conversation in the first place. I would also say product and also value, your values of the company, right? So, because in the world we live in, we want to know who we're buying from. We want to know what the company values are and how they speak to them. But that should come across, though, in the product itself and how it's packaged and how we present that. Your value should come through.
And of course, people who are well educated on the product become super enthusiastic about the product, because enthusiasm is based in a strong, heartfelt belief. So if you can get people to believe in the product intensely, then the next step is very simple, because they become naturally enthusiastic about the product.
Well, they want to introduce you to their friends and their family and their network, because they trust and know what you're going to bring to the table. It is fun when you've got a really good product, when a product takes off. There's an excitement and there's an energy there. And I've had the pleasure of being there a couple of times where you're just like, oh, wow. I know because I've got the product.
Yeah. And when people use the product and they come back to you and say, "Wow, that is the most amazing product I've ever used in my life. It did exactly what you said it would do. I'm in love with it." And I would tell everybody who's prepared to listen to about it. And then it's no longer selling. Then it's no longer, I have to go out and I have to sell this product to somebody. Now I go out and I become an evangelist for the product.
You're sharing.
Yeah, exactly. Sharing. And how important is that?
Oh, it's what selling really is. Look, if I have to hard sell you, then my product's probably not that great of a product, right? If I can share with you my own experience and then allow you to have the experience, that's selling. That's truly, really strong selling. I can tell you my own experience, of course, keeping it short and sweet, the benefits of the product. Try some. Here you go. Let's have you try it. And then I'll get back with you. That is really, we do it all the time, especially women. I giggle at all the times my friends will take a picture of the shoes they just bought at the Nordstrom half yearly sale. You all need to go. This is the brand and there's this. I'm selling that shoe.
Exactly.
I'm selling it to
Not
all
getting
my
paid
friends.
for it, though.
And I'm not getting paid for it.
We have a client what they do is they don't have any sales strategy whatsoever. Their whole sales strategy is, this is our product. This is how you use it. What we want you to do is take this away. We want you to use it for a week, and then we'll call you. And they reckon that they've got a 90% hit rate, because when the person uses the product, they fall in love with it. When they fall in love with it, they buy it. And it's just the most simple, easy way to sell the product. So that just depends on having a really great product at the end of the day.
It is a great product, right? Yeah. Again, if you're having to hard sell it, maybe your product's not as strong as it should be.
Okay, we're coming into land here. I'd just like to touch on compliance, especially from a network marketing point of view as a whole, because our industry's got quite a bad name. You hear the pyramid scheme thrown around, you hear Ponzi schemes thrown around, you hear all of these horrible terms. Now, first of all, why do those terms plague our industry so much? And the second thing is, how do you make sure that your company, as a company owner, how do you make sure that you don't fall into that trap of being a pyramid?
Yeah. So the pyramid scheme, and I bump into it, it's very prevalent in the US market in particular, is because you've had, I will call them bad players, right? That allowed leaders to encourage, and I don't want to say force, but encourage. So these are your distributors, big leaders that say, you need to buy so much product. And, we've heard the stories about garage full of product because you're trying to get to the next rank. Buying rank is what we call it. There's not actually selling because, by the way, that flows up through the system. And hence that pyramid scheme. I think the other idea is in terms of, and we've been talking about this in terms of compensation, the view that the only people making money are at the very top. Well, every organization kind of looks like a pyramid. So, but the idea is that really only that top person or those top few are making money off all the people down below. Well, if your compensation plan, like we've been talking about, is rewarding people no matter where they are in that structure. Okay, so let me say that again. No matter where they are in that structure, can succeed. They can meet whatever income goals that they want to meet. I think the other thing with pyramid scheme came from, I think, some old style like binary plans. In your binary plans, you've only got two legs. And the closer you are to the top, right, the more money you make. So the closer you're to corporate, the more money you make. Well, that's changed. That's changed so much in the last probably 7 to 10 years. That binary compensation plan has started to go away. You're starting to see more of those hybrids because you don't want that. We don't want that reputation. Most of my colleagues and executives I've talked to, we don't want that. That's a very negative connotation. And the only way to break it is to really continue to police ourselves. And I mean, you have the Direct Selling Association. You don't want the FTC in your business. Never want the FTC in your business. But I think that again, when we talked about corporate and your distributor field working together as partners, partners help each other, partners protect each other. Sometimes that means one partner has to tell the other partner, you have to stop, right? And, you're training, especially in the selling and sharing, let's take a nutritional, you're really bound by certain words you cannot say in the US. It gets really kind of nutty sometimes. You get really creative. If it's come up that that these words are being used, you do have to address it. Now, I'm the kind of person that in most compliance groups I've worked with is to have a little softer hand, right? Meaning we have a report. Let's walk through. Let's just do some training. This is why we can't say this. And being transparent. Like, I think that's one of the pieces corporate has to be with their distributors is to be transparent. Here's what the FTC requires. This is real. They're a federal government entity. They've shut down companies. So
Yeah.
we're talking to them. Where are the weaknesses? Where can we help you? As my light just went off. Where can we help you help your teams? Again, it's that idea that we're here to help each other. Obviously, bad players need to go away. There are bad players that are manipulating your compensation plan. They're doing the things, and they know. Let me tell you, they know.
Of course. Yeah.
You have to deal with those, and when you know that and you can quantify it, you have to deal with those quickly, because they will do what? They will ruin your reputation, and it ruins the industry's reputation. But for most folks, Richard, they don't know. Remember, we're dealing with folks that have never had a business. So they may go, hey, I'm going to share here's my paycheck, which is a big no-no. Here's how much money I made, because they're excited. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's where corporate goes. We get you excited. We love the excitement. And we love that we were able to serve you on that in that way. However, FTC doesn't like that. They don't want us to do that. And I think that the more that we can do that, you will see that reputation pull back. But I will tell you, Richard, when people get burned, it just takes people getting burned once. And you see it TikTok, on YouTube. You know, I even have, and my personal network, I think I've been in this industry for so long, and I've never really pitched anybody other than I share my products with whatever company I'm with. And a lot of times I've had friends join. Some are still with them. Beautiful, regardless of where I go, right? But nobody has ever been negative to me personally. However, when I've been out in the field with our distributors, when I've sat there, I mean, people can be pretty negative. And the problem is, no matter what I say, no matter how I approach it, I'm never going to change their negative experience. And sometimes you just have to move away. However, I think companies have an obligation both to their company and to the industry as a whole. Because look, if you were to go out there with the idea that I'm just going to do what I want to do and those people will join me, the problem is everything's circular. It will come back to haunt you. It always does. And you don't have to be heavy-handed. Compliance, some of the best compliance officers I've ever worked with work directly with their field teams, right? And most of the time we were the voice first. Hey, you did the thing. You're not supposed to do the thing. Jen, and I always would say this, Jen's going to call you first. Now, by the way, my compliance officer's like, right? Because I could change that behavior and get them to feel good and know that they're learning. Look, we get it. This happens. Instead of slapping fines and auditing accounts, we can handle those things quickly. Do the big things happen? Yeah, but they really don't happen that often. The big bad things are pretty rare. Most of the time it's just Jane's excited.
And she went and said something crazy.
And she said that this nutritional will stop your pain. Poor Jane, right? Pain and Jane, you know, she's because it stopped hers. So the FDA is like, oh, you really can't say that. But I think there's an obligation that when we hear it, again, kind of like recognition, acknowledging something's there, see it. Let's use our field team to interject and then help them. I will tell you, most of the time I've done that, they never did it again. And they trained their teams because I came at it like.
Yeah. And look, there's a lot of companies who are breaking the rules just through ignorance, not because they want to break the rules. It's just because they don't know better. And I was just chatting with a lady from, she's from somewhere in Nevada. Where was she? I think she was in Las Vegas, actually. Her name's Donna Marie. She's got a company that specializes in helping companies do compliance. And she was saying that the FDA, it's not just the FDA, that I can't remember what other organization that runs the MLM space, the laws. For every single claim false claim that or every breach of their terms that they find on your website or that your people are doing,
Uh-huh.
they fine you $50,000.
Uh-huh.
So if you've got 10 erroneous claims or things that you shouldn't have done, you
Yes.
$500,000 down the road. So it is something, compliance is something that you've actually got to take pretty seriously as a company.
You have to take it. You have to take it seriously, and you have to make sure, like, your policies and procedures are tight. Like, you should have those. Should be that's what's running everything. Your policies and procedures are the rules by which you're asking your distributors to play how we do business. Yes, they're long, they're boring, it's very legal, but you need to have those clear. You need to have those written out, right? Your compensation plan, you can have your version that uses very, very easy to use language, but you should have where it outlines all your terms, because that's that obligation as a company to have everything very tight. You know that nothing's going to fall through so that you can work with your distributors. There are players that will purposely break the rules for a short-term gain, and that hurts us all in the long run, right? And a
Exactly.
lot of times they come in, they're gone within 5 years. Those are the ones that are frustrating, probably to Donna as well, because we work hard to keep this industry legitimate. It's a legitimate industry, with rules and laws that govern us with real consequences. And I think that companies that partner with their distributor field really well and explain it and understand it. The other is your compliance team should be visible to your field. I know they don't like it. A lot of times they're lawyers, right? But I will tell you, most that I've worked with, having them participate in your large events, have them be there where you could focus. It shows your distributor field how important it is, and that
Yeah.
they're not alone, and that they can call and they can ask. Ask first is always a great rule.
Yeah. And of course, if you are starting an MLM company, better you get these things right,
Oh,
because it's much
yes.
cheaper to pay the legal eagles than it is to pay the fines. And I
And
mean, yeah, and you
there's
can
some
land up in
great
jail. It's
companies.
not just,
Oh,
it's not just, it's not just play. You can actually land up getting yourself into very serious trouble.
well, and you can find yourself. There's some great companies out there. Oh, there's some phenomenal companies out there that help with that compliance at the startup. But it's here's what happens when it goes wrong. It goes spectacularly wrong, and then that gets out. Right, the PR gets out there. Our reputation stained. I'll never forget getting called into a meeting. I had been here in Utah for about 6 months, and it was a big company that was growing, that had played the game we were just playing. They were allowing distributors to do things that were not legitimate, and employees showed up, and the doors were chained, and the
And that's
company
the
was
end of
gone.
it.
And that's the end of it. And that always makes me sad. It makes me sad for the employees. It makes me sad for the distributors. But it also frustrates me because guess what? They knew. There's a group that knows, and they knew what they were playing, and they knew the game they were playing. They just looked the other way. And that's where I tend to say, corporate, don't look. If you're legitimate and you're wanting to do this and you're really wanting to provide the best opportunity out there, don't look the other way. You're going to
Yes.
want to sometimes, because like you said, it might cost me, but that cost on the upfront is going to save you in the long run.
And the longevity of the business as well. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't flaunt the rules and stay in business for
No,
a long time. It just doesn't work that way.
it doesn't work that way.
So, Jennifer, this was amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. You
This
see, there
was
was nothing to be
fun.
nervous about, hey?
I
Nothing to be
know,
nervous
nothing at
about.
all.
Yeah. I'm a teddy bear. It's easy.
You are. And I could talk for hours. My poor husband, he's been with me. He's just like, you really do. I have a passion for this industry. I believe in this industry. I think we're evolving. It's not going to go away. I think what's going to happen in the next couple of years, we're going to figure out a way to even make it stronger. You look at the
Agreed.
big players, the Avons, the Mary Kays, those that really helped us, Amways, that started this and gave us strength. I think you're going to see a lot of these new players. I'm hoping my voice gets heard as well as we look at providing great products, amazing opportunities, communities where people want to join us, that serves them and they get recognized for it.
100%. Well, I want to ask you to please give out your email, your contact details again, because you've obviously got a tremendous amount to offer people who are getting into the space. So shoot, where can they get hold of you?
Okay, so my email is Wright Jennifer 360 at Comcast.net. And my phone number, my cell phone, is 360-508-3372. I'm also on WhatsApp. So if you're outside the United States, I know how cell phone bills can get. You can find that number on WhatsApp easily. And LinkedIn.
Okay. So I'm just going to spell that out for everybody. It's WRIGHTJENNIFER is the front at?
Correct.
And that's it.
360.
360, okay.
At Comcast.net.
Comcast. That's COMCAST.
Correct.
Perfect. 100%. Well, Jennifer, thank you so very much for spending this time with me. I really enjoyed it. I think this is going to be well loved by everybody who listens to it. And I can't wait to get it up onto our channel. It was absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you for reaching out, and thank you for the connection, right? I mean, we're networkers at heart, and I think anytime we can bring all the voices together and our experiences, we just are stronger.
Awesome. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you found this session informative. But before you leave, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Spotify. And remember, never leave the good stuff till later.